Welcome to Starlight Radio Dreams, the comedy show with a podcasting habit brought to you by our backers on Patreon. This episode is All Cakes Are Beautiful, written and directed by Jared McDaris, featuring the vocal talents of Kat Evans. The Starlight Radio Dreams theme was written and recorded by Arne Parrott. Sound design and editing by Jared McDaris. Now, without further ado, on with the show.
Hello all, and welcome back to All Cakes Are Beautiful here on the Fluffy Foods Network. I'm Alex Mager. Today, I'll be sharing my grandmother's special pineapple upside-down cake recipe, handed down from grandmother to granddaughter for over 2 centuries, skipping every second generation just to piss them off. For me, I can't talk about pineapple upside-down cake without talking about the 4th of July and the first time I tasted my grandmother's special dessert. But if you're itching to skip ahead to the recipe itself, feel free to jump to the following timestamp.
Timestamp not found.
I was an awkward 11-year-old who got good grades and little else, who didn't know her place in the world, and who knew nothing about the revolutionary, healing power of All Cakes Are Beautiful here on the Fluffy Foods Network. But make sure you know about the healing power of a 1/4 cup of butter and a cup of packed brown sugar, because we'll be using both today. It was a gorgeous afternoon. The weenies were roasting, the burgers were burning, and our neighbors were celebrating in their own yard with some amazing music I had never heard before. My grandmother called me into the kitchen and let me eat the first slice of her beautiful cake. That's when she passed down her special recipe and even let me carry the rest of the cake out to the backyard for everyone else to enjoy. Of course, when we returned to the backyard, that's when we saw that our neighbors had some visitors. A group of strange and unfriendly-looking men had climbed over their back fence to complain about their music. Men with shaved heads featuring tattoos that the Fluffy Foods Network has asked me to describe as controversial and best not discussed outside of their historical context. These very contextual men began threatening our neighbors, suggesting that their religion was not the correct one, or that they did have the correct religion but somehow did not quite have it in the correct way. The air grew tense, and my entire family was staring, silently. That's when my grandmother broke out the baseball bats. We have an old saying in the Mager family, she said. Fuck around and find out. Just like you can fuck around with a 20-ounce can of pineapple slices in juice, drained, with the juice set aside if you're unable to find out a fresh pineapple, which I do recommend. Old Grandma vaulted that fence faster than you could de-stem a 6-ounce can of maraschino cherries, which you should do before starting. My older cousins scrambled up after her, each grabbing a baseball bat as they landed. I stared longingly after them until my father, a kindly man who had had children a little later in life, stooped awkwardly down and helped me climb over that fence to join my old grandma, a twinkle in her eye and a pine wood slugger in her hand. I joined the rest of the Mager family, standing firmly between our neighbors and the skinheads, whom the Fluffy Foods Network has asked me to remind you are entitled to their own opinions and are free to express their controversial views in a peaceable manner. Our neighbors thanked us for our smiles, our fellowship, and our baseball bats, while a rude man calling himself Storm Guard insisted that we ought to mind our own business before grabbing a hold of my grandmother's arm and attempting to shove her back toward the fence. Grandma beat the shit out of that Nazi asshole, who cried like the fascist boo-boo baby that he is. And you'll cry too at the scent of this Fluffy Foods brand yellow cake mix, a treat and a bargain that can be found at your local grocery store. The Fluffy Foods Network has also asked me to point out that the Fluffy Foods Network does not condone violence in any form for any reason, and that I am merely relating a historical event to you, not condoning any actions that might be perceived as controversial. Old Grandma shouted, "I've had one policy on Nazis for the past 50 years, and I don't see no reason to change it now." A vicious bloodbath ensued, where 3 generations of Magers and Gutierrezes, our neighbors, became one through the healing unity of anti-fascist praxis, while Rage Against the Machine played in the background like a glorious anthem of revolution. We never saw those controversial men again, their bald and bloodied heads redder than a bowl of maraschino cherries, who presumably returned to the context in which they are meant to be viewed. But the Magers and the Gutierrezes spent many wonderful summer days after that, celebrating friendship, festivity, and the nation we had grown to love. Just like I'm sure you'll grow to love this special pineapple upside-down cake. It's a Mager family tradition, much like busting Nazi skulls. And I've decided to share my traditions with you here today on All Cakes Are Beautiful. Heat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 325 degrees for dark or non-stick pans.
Thank you for joining us for Starlight Radio Dream. Join us next time, January 28, for Starlight Radio Dream's show-length musical, Samuel Spruce in The Warehouse Always Wins. The little wooden boy will finally learn the truth about late-stage capitalism through the magic of song. Until then, keep laughing and keep dreaming.